Good morning.
We're very, very somber today.
You hit the button. I am rarely somber. And today is definitely not one of those days. So
We have sorrow.
no.
They have lost.
No, we're talking about wine and
Yes.
innovation.
Wine
How
and
can
innovation,
anybody be
creativity.
somber? No.
John's here. Hey, John.
Hi.
Okay, hit one of your buttons.
Yeah, it happens.
Who do we have on our show today?
Welcome to the Backpack Show, everybody, where we bring you insights about success from unusual places. So today we have South Africa's first professional female winemaker, Ntsiki Biyela of Aslina Wines. Very excited to talk with her. She has an amazing journey. You won't believe it. And we're going to talk with Dave Birss, a creativity and innovation expert and author of How to Get to Great Ideas.
We're going to have to find out how to get there.
I know.
Far away from a great idea.
I'm so excited.
Backpack Show.
I'm always like, I could grab a drink, but this will end and he'll be on camera.
Right. Again. Coach Woodard's on the road, people. Everybody take note. Central Virginia. What the heck are you doing there? What did we do wrong?
Here. Good morning.
Hi, Chloe. Happy to see you. It's like butterflies have flown in from all places. It's a beautiful thing.
This is sort of fun. Ntsiki originally was thinking about being like a land surveyor, being an engineer, like a civil engineer. And we'll talk about why. But somehow she ended up a winemaker. So we have kind of a lot to talk about.
So she was surveying the land. She came across some vines. She saw the grapes. She made wine. It was amazing.
I think there is more to it than that.
Probably a whole different story. I guess we'll have to bring her on.
I guess we will. Hi.
Hello. It's probably not like that, is it? You didn't just find the vines, Ntsiki. You're live. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi,
thank you so much.
So excited to have you.
I love the story that I was like surveying and then I saw the vines and then boom,
And it just happened. So I've heard you say before, you're not born with passion for something. You experience things and learn things, and then you find out like what you're passionate about.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that has been part of the lessons for me, because when you talk to people tell you, oh, we're born with passion, and like people have got different, I think, ideas about things in life, obviously. But for me, it has been the lesson to say, well, I wouldn't have been passionate about something I never knew before. So it was more about learning about it and meeting people and getting excited about it and being inquisitive and all that curiosity. And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to stay here. So yeah, that's basically. And then you find like you really, really enjoy this. You really love this.
You were raised by your grandmother, and she wanted you to be a land surveyor. Do I have that right?
Yes. She is like, when I'm coming back from school, and then she'll be talking when she's talking to her friends, or they'll be visiting, and she's like, no, my granddaughter is going to be a land surveyor. It was all that. She's going to be a land surveyor. And then so when I was in high school, when everyone was talking about engineering and all that, and I thought, the best thing to do is civil engineering, because there's land surveying when you're doing civil engineering. In that way, my grandmother would be happy too. So, it's a win-win. And then obviously you apply for scholarship, and then you get these nice letters coming back, we regret. And then you're like, okay, got another one coming, and then it arrives, it goes, we regret. And then you're like, and then immediately when you feel like when you've been a balloon and you've already like go, and then something comes your way. And then I was told at school that actually there's a scholarship if you want to study winemaking, do agriculture in Stellenbosch. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And I remember actually even the application forms they were in Afrikaans. So I had to go to the Afrikaans teacher so that we can fill in these forms.
No, wait, you skipped a step here though, because you had finished high school. You were working as a domestic for like a year, and your teachers came to find you to get you to apply for this.
Yes. So yes, I was working for as a domestic worker for a year, and I got called at school that okay, there's an opportunity here to study winemaking, to do agriculture, and I agreed, and basically I had to get back to school, fill in the forms, And basically, yeah. And then when I got accepted at Stellenbosch, and I was like, and then the application forms were sent from South African Airways. And I remember, because obviously I came back, filled in the form, and went back to work. So, and when I was applying for the scholarship, sent the application forms, I got called. And I remember it was just during the day, finishing cleaning, and then the phone rings, I answer. And then they're looking for me. And then I was like, okay, that's me, Ntsiki speaking. And then they tell me that, okay, you got the scholarship, but there are things you didn't fill in on the bursary form. So they asked me a couple of questions. And then they're like, do you know that it's in Afrikaans? I was like, no, I don't, but I'll learn. Like, for me, it was like, there is nothing that's going to stop me now. Like, whatever you say, I'm just going to, it's a yes, I'll do it. So that's how basically, and yeah, I remember I cried that moment because I was like, oh my word, I've got a scholarship, I'm going to study. It was a dream come true.
Your grandmother wanted you to survey land, but then you get this opportunity for scholarship for wine. How did that conversation go?
Well, I went back, I told my grandmother she was happy that I was going to be studying.
Okay.
She was happy that I was going to be studying, but because I was sponsored by South African Airways. So the people in the village, what they thought was, they thought I was going to be studying to be a pilot. So, yes. So they thought I was studying to be a pilot, and it was like, no, I'm not going to be a pilot. I'm doing agriculture. And I remember one of the old men in the village, he called me. He was a bit upset, and he's like, out of everything, we plant here at home, we do all these things, and you go and study agriculture, like things that we do at home. Couldn't you have studied at least secretarial work? So, because it was more like at that moment, being in an office is like more, it was there
more
was
prestigious.
Yes. And then I was like, no, but what I'm doing is like making wine, and still he was like, but this is still agriculture, So yeah.
I love that he made free to share that opinion with you, because it would be very different here. Not that people don't share their opinions. It's just normally they don't do it to your face. It's like they do it on Twitter or something.
Well, and it's interesting too that his perspective was, we already have all the agriculture people we need. Why would you go do that? But of course, you had a different perspective. But why would Southwest Airlines want you to study agriculture? What was there? Did they explain that? Was there a reason?
So what happened is, so South African Airways, the wine industry has been entering sort of, South African Airways was actually serving South African wines on the flights. But now the industry is white dominated. There's no, what do you call it? There was
no diversity.
Yes, there's no diversity in the industry. So for them to bring that into play, they have to find students who want to study winemaking and come into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the whole thing, just to diversify the industry.
I see.
Yeah.
I want to take a step back, because you mentioned that they told you, hey, the courses are all offered in Afrikaans. That's cool, right? And you were like, I'll learn. There's more to it. I mean, so you show up at university, all like white people, right? Speaking a completely different language, different culture, and you just turn up on campus with no idea where you're supposed to go the first day. How did it go?
No, that was terrifying, actually. It's like the thought of it, because I remember I had arrived, and I was, there's the library, the University of Stellenbosch library is underground. So we're standing above the library, and I could see everyone is walking past, and it's all white people, and they're speaking a language I don't understand. And I literally stood there, and that was it. And one of the ladies came passing, Tulaniani. She's black, but she grew up in Stellenbosch, so she speaks Afrikaans. She's, so she came, she asked me, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not. And I couldn't even pronounce the name. So I showed her in the book, I'm supposed to go there. And then she said, okay, no, we're also going that side, so come with me. So we went. And I remember getting into the hall. We all came in, we sat down, and then the lecturer started speaking in Afrikaans. And I was like, then the reality hits in, and you're like, oh, okay. And then so the lecturer speaks, cracks jokes, everybody laughs, you look around and you're like, okay. And then when everybody stands up and you're like, oh, that means it's done. And then you stand up and go.
Wow.
So that was, yeah.
So not probably on the honors list for the first year. How did you find your way?
Well, so I remember, okay, first I didn't even have accommodation on campus. So I was staying outside campus. And one of the students, she's like, I need to go look for accommodation and so that I can stay on campus. So I go ask for accommodation and then they tell me, because at that time I was 20, they're like, no, students at age 20, we can't allow, it's only people who are 18 years old who can stay in the hostels. And I just burst into tears because I was thinking, you think I'm going to stay in a place that I also need to be in the vicinity of my classes. So I just burst into tears and they're like, okay, fine, we'll sort you out. So they sort me out.
That they understand, so.
So my accommodation was sorted. So I was staying in the hostel, and I think going to classes and coming back, and it was made of just not really understanding anything. And I had to realize that I need to get tutors. And I started seeing psychologists because it felt like everything is just a mess. Nothing seemed normal. Everything was just a mess. So I started seeing psychologists because I was crying all the time. Everything's like you get into the class, you sit there, and you get out. Basically, that's all you do. You get in, you sit, you get out. And then you try to figure out what was said, what was it. So you try to follow and all those things. So I remember going to therapy and then telling them that I'm like, okay, guys, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. That is, and I cannot. It was like, I cannot go back home. So you guys need to help me out. They were like, but there's nothing we can do. I was like, I don't know, but I need help. If I fail, the university is going to kick me out. And then they were like, okay, fine. You're going to need to come to therapy every week. Then if you fail, we'll basically back you up so that the university can give you a second chance. I was like, okay. So then I was like,
so
okay,
they wouldn't
fine.
let them kick you out. They're like, she's making an effort.
Yes.
To do all of this. And so you just took failure off the table, as an option.
So then once that was done, I was like, okay, fine. So now I can put all my energy into studying. And basically that's what I did. And it was great because at the end I passed. I was like, I passed my first year. It's like one of those really, really I passed. So yeah. But also what I did then in my first year, I applied for a job. The guy who had recruited us, Chablan, he was like, oh no, his friend is looking for, because I was like, I need to get a job or something so that I can understand this thing that I'm doing. And then he directed us to Delheim Wine. So I sent my application, and I remember when I went for an interview, it was funny because I remember the guy who interviewed us was Victor and his sister. So they're like, so have you drank wine before? I was like, not really, but I had it was.
I'll give it a whirl.
I tasted wine for the first time when I got here, because I remember the guy who recruited us, Jablani, he was like, which is one of the things. So when people tell you about things that they enjoy, it doesn't mean really it's as beautiful as they say it really. So he was explaining to us about the wine. First, the rules in his house was you can break plates, but never break my wine glasses. And I thought that's the most ridiculous thing that somebody can ever say, really. And so there was that. And I was like, okay, fine. So, and then he poured the wine in a glass. He's talking about all these beautiful fruits and plums and all that with an excitement. And I'm thinking, wow, that is going to be that's going to be nice.
Do you want that enthusiasm?
Yes, I went with the excitement, this is going to be nice. I took a sip and I thought to myself, what was I thinking? And then I'm like, so he goes, so what do you think? When somebody's rating that, you're going to say, oh, yes, it's great. I was like, nice. And I'm thinking in myself, this is the most horrible thing, that people drink.
And now it's your business. Now you make this for other people.
Yes. So I think working at Delheim as a student was fantastic because that's where actually I learned really about wine. I was working at the tasting room, working at the cellar, working in the vineyards. And I worked with the most passionate winemaker. And Philip Constantis, he used to, like, when it's harvest, it's like the first tank is his tank. We're going to crush, and then the first tank to empty, it's his tank. Then he will do that, and the second one's going to be the assistant winemaker, and then it goes all in line. And I think one of the fun thing I enjoyed that, even though it was scary though, because it was frustrating the winemaker, because we've got these big casks, and then when you're busy emptying the tank, because it's dark inside, so there's a light, somebody will walk past and just switch off the light. And you are in this huge tank, and somebody switches off the light. You're gonna scream, and the winemaker come back running, and he shouts at everybody, and everyone is laughing.
Trapped in there.
Yes. But it's one of those you look at back like, that was fun. But obviously it was terrifying at the moment, because you're like, oh my word, what did just happen? So yeah, so I learned that with wines there.
How did you get from there to making your own wine company? I mean, I guess that's what the learning is for, but what was it like to transition from being under the employ of somebody and learning from somebody to being able to open up Aslina Wines?
So it was progression, really. When I was at varsity, I knew that at some point I want to start my own company. That I was clear. And I remember this one time while I was still a student, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, in KZN, where I come from, there's no tasting room facility. So I'm gonna start a tasting room facility. You're gonna need glasses. I'm counting all these things that I'm gonna need. I've got relationships already in the industry, so I'm gonna bring people, and then they're gonna do tasting. And then I realized, oh yeah, I need money to do this. And then, well, reality kicked in. And I think when I started working, because I started working at Stelekaya, I was working there with knowing that I am gonna start my own company. So it was, I'm working to build and learn as much, and just to build myself to be able to start my own company. And I think the platform was a good platform. It was a small company, and I was working in all aspects of the business. Started in the vineyards, go all the way to make the wine, go to the market, to a point that I remember my boss would discuss finance. I had to do my own budgets. So it was like I was doing things that most winemakers don't do, because you're working in a big company. So you're working in a big company, so you've got your own space that you're making wine. That's what you do. But because I was working in a small company, I was working in all aspects of the business. So that for me was basically a big benefit for me to build my name as a winemaker, but also to learn as much to be able to run my own company. And in 2011, I had told my boss that I want to start my own brand. And he was like, oh yeah, all winemakers do those, so you can go ahead. And around that time, Mika Bulmash from Wine for the World came looking for me. And apparently she did some Googling and searching, and then she found me, and she's like, she's got an idea. She wants to help work with winemakers from other countries to collaborate with American winemakers. So that's how actually I started. So I collaborated with Helen Keplinga. We made the first wine, which was sold in the US, and we made the second one. And then the funds that came from there, I used to start Aslina, which I launched in 2016.
Wow.
Now, did your grandmother get a chance to drink wine that you made with her name on it?
She didn't get a chance to drink the wine I made with her name, but she drank the wine that I made before.
Oh,
so what
okay.
happened in 2006, where my first wine had won a gold medal at Michelangelo Awards. So I took that one. I took that wine home, and I was like so excited. And I told my grandmother it won a gold medal. I took cups, I poured wine in the cups for us to taste. And then she tasted the wine, and she's like, it's nice. But the facial expression was, it's like somebody has tasted something very sour.
Oh, it was like you when you first tried wine. That's exactly what it was.
Got it.
So yeah.
Beautiful.
But at the same time, she was like so proud her granddaughter has made some wine. So yeah.
And did that guy ever call you back and apologize? The one who said agriculture, come on.
Shem was an old man.
Well, fine then.
So we can go to Aslina Wines.
He was saying it from a caring. He was saying that from a caring part of life, because
as people do.
Yes, according to him, agriculture is something that is,
lesser. I get it.
yes, lesser. You can't go study that. Everybody can do that. So, yeah.
Now, this wine is available all over the place: Ghana, Swaziland, Japan, Taiwan, Germany, and also the USA. So if anyone wants to check this out, you could go to Wine for the World or Brandwar Wines and check this wine out yourself so you can drink some of what Ntsiki made. Ntsiki, thank you so much for being part of the show today. Stick around if you can, and we'll have you back for a little panel at the very end.
Yeah, please don't leave.
Thank you. Wow.
I know.
That was wine-tastical.
Amazing, right?
Who'da
So
thought?
everybody at my university spoke English, and it was still like an adjustment. So I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah, well, there's 11 official languages in South Africa, so she could speak anything: Afrikaans, English, of course, Zulu, Xhosa. There's so many, and so to find even a bridge person out of the 11 official languages. Don't forget, I keep saying the word official because there's a lot of tribe languages too.
Yeah.
To find that connection, I mean, it's hard. And I was going to ask what language therapy was in, but I figured, we're already kind of way off the rails.
So to be an entrepreneur generally, as you know, takes a certain amount of grit. But this journey, I don't know, to me, I was just like, wow, I could see any of 100 places that a lot of people would have just said, forget it.
I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to make wine.
I'm going to do something a little easier than this.
You got to learn to mow lawns. Yeah,
I just think Ntsiki Biyela is amazing.
Very amazing. What a story. So if you want to interview amazing people, you got to go get your own show because you can't have mine. I already have it. So go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard and make your own damn show. You can interview wine people. I mean, I'm going to be talking to Wine of the Month Club, my man Paul, and who knows, maybe he'll launch a wine show and he'll have Ntsiki on as well, because you can have this, you can make your own show, but
yes, bring your own creativity experts and your own winemakers, and you can make your own show. StreamYard makes it very easy for people to join the studio with you and share their story.
Hi, Bradwin. All right, we're sponsored also by our author friends and author promoter friends. Pubsite, pub-site.com. Authors, you wrote a book. Get it on the web, because who's going to pay attention to it in your stupid closet? If you have a whole garage full of your dumb book you're trying to sell and you don't even know what to do to get rid of them, you can have your own e-commerce shop set up. You can have a blog. You can have social media. All of that. Pub-site.com. This stuff's expensive.
Even if you don't, it is not expensive. It is $19.99 a month. And there's a 14-day free trial. And if you absolutely cannot be bothered to build a website yourself, they will build it for you for $499, which is almost obscenely inexpensive. So
ridiculous.
But you definitely need a website. Even if you don't care about e-commerce, you don't care about social media, you need a website to promote your book, because it's the first thing people are going to do when they hear about you is go look for it online. So Pubsite, pub-site.com, powered by FSB Associates, the very best book publicity firm in the business.
Tom Clancy, Robin Cook, all those people have a site at Pubsite. So get your site. You can't imagine for a minute that you think you're better than them. All right. Dave Birss. Dave Birss is a book author.
Yes,
he travels around talking about his book. Whoa. How do you get to great ideas? How do you get to great ideas? I'm glad that I read the title wrong the first time, because I thought it was how to get to great ideas. That's all you get.
How to get to great ideas. That's what it is.
No. Look at my fingers, Carrie. How to get to great ideas. That's what I thought. You just get to.
Why do I fall for this every time?
I don't know why you do, because you're looking at the book. Because you're fast. That's why you're fast. You're like a blizzard. Let's get Dave Birss.
I should have known it would be dad jokes and not like an actual thing you were saying.
I did not know the dad joker would be here today.
I did know. You did know.
Dave Birss, this is what you've landed on. Sorry, my friend.
That's all right. I think I'll leave you guys to it. I'll be off. Thanks.
Wait, that mug pack. Is that a Holiday Inn Express mug, Dave?
Yep. Here we go. Holiday Inn Express.
Kind of classy.
Because I am a classy man. I'm actually drinking my tea out of this.
We book smart people on this show. So.
But Chris, I think you might have given me the title there for the follow-up book. How to get to great ideas. I think that's it. I mean, it feels like a good sequel title, that one.
It does. It really does. You know how they try to get so clever in movie titles like that? Such a to-do.
So I saw you speak in Montenegro, Dave, about creativity, and everyone was so excited about you speaking, and I was so like, whatever.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, but no. So it wasn't just about like creativity in some kind of, I don't know how to put it, like a woo-woo way. Like you were giving people actual frameworks and tips for how to cultivate like innovation at your company. Yeah, exactly. So I was not expecting it. I love it.
Yeah, I get so frustrated by the woo-woo. There is so much fluff. I think that creativity and innovation are probably the two subjects with the most BS. And I feel that that's what I am battling against, because I'm bringing in science, sort of neuropsychology, all sorts of things to try and demystify the absolute nonsense that people spout, and to try and demystify it and show that actually a lot of this is a process, and there's certain understandings that you need to have. And yeah, I'm kind of this rationalist in many ways.
Well, not Chris. You've come to the right place.
I'm an irrationalist, so let's get there. So no, but I have. So I'm also frustrated at the woo-woo. So I added that one. I'm not supposed to touch these buttons.
Stop it.
But Dave, hit us with one. Hit us with one, because I think that marketers have a curse. There's a few things marketers do wrong. One, they exist. Two, what they also do wrong is that marketers think that everyone thinks just like them. And that's absolutely my flaw. I think everyone is creative because I like to be creative. Not true. So how do you get the sort of blood from a stone on this? How do you shake down, like, a lorry driver and say, here you go, get creative now? And how do you, like, where do you even start with that process?
Well, there is this interesting thing. I think that creativity ends up in many ways. People think, oh, it's about being a painter, it's about being a musician, it's about being a dancer. And they think that that's what creativity is. And it's not. All creativity is coming up with an idea that probably hasn't existed before. It's about taking one element, taking another element, bringing them together to create something new. And a lot of the time, companies will get me in and they say, oh, we just keep coming up with the same ideas again and again. Can you teach us brainstorming skills? And I'm like, no. Brainstorms, use the abbreviation BS, because that's what they are. The way that they're run is absolute nonsense, and it leads to those same ideas coming up again and again. So the way that I explain it to them is that our brain is a processor, not a computer, but a processor. So you get input, process, output. If you've got the same input as everyone else, no matter how you process it, you're going to come up with the same kind of output, because you've got the same ingredients. I'm sorry, but when you give someone garlic, mushrooms, and cream, there's only so much they can actually come up with. And if everyone's got the same ingredients, everyone's coming up with the same stuff. So I explain to people that it's really about how you feed your mind, and I give people exercises on how to feed their mind, how to turn that into something that makes it easier for them to take principles from it and use those to generate fresh ideas, rather than just look, oh, that's interesting, I'll copy that, which is what most marketers do.
Well, you can't start the same place. Yeah, you can't start the same place.
The fuel band. Can we have the fuel band of retail? I was actually asked that.
What? No.
Yeah, I was asked in the space of 1 year after the fuel band came out. I was asked if I could help people work on the fuel band for retail. The fuel band for insurance was one thing. I can't remember what the third one was, but there was 3 times, and it's just like, no, what you're doing is you're plagiarizing and not actually applying thought to it. Instead of working out what are the principles that make that good, how do we apply those principles to what we have?
How does motivation work, though? If you want to encourage innovation at your company, you have to do some things differently with your leadership. How do you motivate people? How do you let them know that this is like a safe space to kind of screw up sometimes, because you're gonna?
Yeah, I mean, you're totally down to leadership. There's something lovely that Toyota have been doing for, my goodness, about 70 years. They actually put it in people's contracts that it is your responsibility to come up with ideas to make this company better. And the way that they do it is they got these suggestion boxes, but not the way that suggestion boxes are usually used. They're for people who are doing one particular role. So it might be the people who sweep the factory floors, and they put their ideas in the factory floor sweepers suggestion box. And then every month or two, the factory floor sweepers will have a committee that will get together, go through the ideas and go, that's crap, that's crap. Oh, there's something in that. And then they pass it directly to the top of the company, bypassing all the layers of hierarchy, right to the top where the decision is made and something happens. And they get, I think they get about 10, I think that the statistic I read is per employee, they get about 10 suggestions a year, which is phenomenal. And they might be little changes rather than trying to do be the new Airbnb of building lawnmowers. There might be little changes, but those little changes, that is what innovation is about bringing in an idea that wasn't previously in the company, changing the way something works within the company, either in a small level or a big level, and the small levels are just as important. There's such a lack of understanding.
Idea makes me think a little bit. Your fuel band idea makes me think a little bit about the fact that a lot of times people go after the wrong part of the problem anyway. They're not, they're looking for that effect or that result or that observation that they had, but they're not actually trying to fix or change or do something, specific to any kind of challenge. Does creativity have a harder time working if it's not directly applied to a challenge?
I think it's better if you have something in mind, you have an aim. The way I write briefs for people for innovation or for advertising ideas or whatever is I talk about state A and state B. So state A is what's the situation right now, and state B is where do you want people to be at the end of it, and your job is to come up with something that gets people from A to B. Yeah, and the problem is that a lot of marketing and a lot of even innovation isn't actually trying to do something transformative like that. And I think if you're not aiming to be transformative, you're not making any real change. You're not transforming people. You're not transforming the company's fortunes. So I think, yeah, you need to have some kind of focus, but I also believe in play and purposeless play as another thing, which is sometimes you just need to tinker and just mess around with stuff to see what happens. And I put experimentation into companies for that reason, is so that we create something which is an area which is like a sandbox for them to play in, to start experimenting and doing stuff. Because the purposeless play, I think, is how we get to some pretty interesting things.
Coach Woodard says innovation equals little changes, like microbursts. That's sort of what you're talking about, like get in the sandbox for a little bit. Michelle says blending something new from old components is a skill set. You have to practice that.
It's
like
an attitude, I think. Yeah, it's an attitude. I mean, with Coach Woodward, I think, innovation, little changes, I think, is the bit that is probably neglected. When companies look at innovation, they tend to think that it's about trying to create this new, disruptive, market-changing product. And the companies themselves aren't set up for that kind of approach. So when I've worked with banks and big manufacturers on this, and they say that that's what they want, and then you do the project, you come up with great ideas, and nothing happens. There's one I did for a bank, an innovation program for their mobile apps nearly 10 years ago. And 2 years ago, the guy who was leading the project left the bank and sent me a message and said, Dave, I want you to know that 8 years after we did that, the ideas made it into the app. 8 years. And
8 years.
Like, wow. So
and you were like, haha.
Yeah, and they were also compromised, heavily compromised. But the companies need to realize that it's actually these little incremental changes are actually a definite, sure way, because that's about building a culture of innovation where everyone across the organization is looking for ways to improve. They're understanding that their job is to come up with ideas. And when you make these little things happen, they all add up. There was the guy who helped the UK cycling team win the Olympic gold a few years ago. Dave Brailsford has this thing where he talks about these incremental changes, these little things that you do, and how all of those little changes you make add up to one big effect. So I think that more companies should be looking at that kind of thing.
There's a great example of that from 2005. It was Dave Gray, who worked at a company called X-Plane that I always wanted to work at growing up. I always thought if I could ever work with Dave Gray. And then we were finally friends, and I was like, oh, guess I don't want to work with you anymore. But nice guy, but I didn't want to work anymore. I wanted to run my own. He did this thing for Hewlett Packard South America, and it was an assembly plant for putting together HP computers. And what was happening was people were just going just a wee bit slow on different parts of the entire assembly line. So Dave drew an entire graphic that showed the entire lifespan of the computer getting built, like one of those child pictures, like this is how your lunch gets made or whatever, and about computers. But what it showed was by the time that everybody had just done their one little thing, just one more sip of tea before grabbing that box, it was 2 full days of eaten time. And you can't see it. You only see your 20 seconds, or your 5 seconds or whatever. And that one poster changed the velocity of production at that company. Just a poster.
Don't drink your tea. Work for the company now.
Come on. Have you seen Amazon? They make them pee in jars. It's brilliant.
I don't like it. I'm not working for him either.
Brilliant. So no, I was thinking that the whole time. I had this awful dark thought, Dave, which is that there's 2 very dark negatives to being in the world of creativity. One is you just rarely see all your projects get anywhere near succeeded, right? Yeah. Because so many times it's like the check cashes, but you don't get that feeling in your belly like, I made that happen. And then the second is just that the energy and the culture against creativity is massive, and you would never know it. It's like a legion against a few smart ideas. And I wonder how you deal with that. And I wonder how you deal with it emotionally as well as, because I think creative people are, artistic sorts, and we have sort of soft heart parts.
Yeah, I mean, there was a book a few years ago. What was it? The freaks shall inherit the earth, something like that.
Hate that guy.
I don't so
charlatan.
So this idea of difference, I think, is so valuable. And the problem is that people are rewarded for being same, not different. So when you're in organizations, when you do the same thing as everyone else, if you're different, you're trying a different approach, you're probably going to get pulled up on it. You're certainly going to get noticed more. And if that goes wrong, you'll be the one whose ass gets kicked because you were the one who's doing something different. So people feel that it's safer to just do the way that it's always been done. So that ends up being, it's just the curse of having a large organization. So people do what their boss did, because they're not going to get fired for it, and end up creating these systems and processes. And those are full of assumptions. And many of those assumptions are completely out of date. And one of the things I do with companies is I go in and we look at the assumptions and start shattering them and going, okay, what happens if we change this assumption? What happens if this thing that you think is true, that you think the way it works, what if it was the opposite? And I find that every single time I do that, it just opens up opportunities that they never previously had. But for me, when I go into an organization and they want to run a workshop in the organization, the problem is that people are psychologically confined by the walls of the organization. So you hold it in the company's boardroom, and they are still affected by all the politics and assumptions and processes of the company. So I prefer to get them out of the walls into some place where suddenly they're not in Kansas anymore. You change the rules of how they operate, and then you can get ideas coming out that they would never come up with in the office.
Can I recommend a winery in South Africa?
Oh, I would love that.
Place to do it.
Ntsiki, if you can let me come
I'm bringing
down
her
with some
back
people
in. We're ready for panel time. We're ready for panel time.
Wait,
you have to unmute your
inside.
microphone.
I love your story.
Oh, God, I muted myself up there.
No, that was good. You were backstage. So we were just saying, Dave, if you want to have creativity, let's bring everybody out to the winery. Get the little, the wine flowing. You're out in nature, which I know, Ntsiki, that's something that appealed to you. You liked being out in nature, not necessarily just like doing chemical engineering in some lab somewhere. So for you, this was kind of a marriage made in heaven, nature and chemical engineering.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I enjoy hiking a lot. Like it just makes me happy. So
that's why you could have also been a land surveyor. They do a lot of hiking. But
yes, it would have.
It would have worked.
Well, now that you mention it,
Engineering and the structuring, that was going to be a kind of Yeah.
I feel like Dave could write a secret book called "All the Ways People Do Creativity Poorly," creativity poorly, or like everything that's failed. And I have a feeling that there's a certain diminishing returns law to liquor. I don't know.
What? You can get too
Well,
drunk? I don't
I did
believe
an
it.
experiment a few years ago. I did an
Oh, did you?
experiment about 7 or 8 years ago to see if alcohol makes you more creative. Yeah. And we took 20
And?
advertising creatives, and 10 of them were only allowed to drink water for 3 hours, and 10 of them were allowed to drink as much as they liked of whatever they liked. We had to send 2 of them home after an hour because one of them was asleep behind a settee. But we found that the team who were
That was a
drinking,
water guy, right?
the team who were drinking came up with more ideas. They came up with better ideas because we got them judged by the public and we got them judged by an advertising awards jury. So more ideas, better ideas, and more diverse ideas. So they explored more territories. They came up with ideas more consistently throughout the time. So we actually found that, I think that you're right, Chris, that there's a diminishing law of return that comes with that. But it's probably 3 glasses of wine, between 1 and 3 glasses of wine. Actually, it opens up. It seems to take down that little voice inside your head that says, no, 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 you can't say that. And it opens that up. And then beyond that, the wall crumbles too much. And at that point, you're going, well, what if we filled a sock full of custard and threw it at a kangaroo? You know, and at that point, it just all kind of like stops being effective.
Well, that happens on this show without the benefit of wine. every now and then. John says they had to pee twice in 3 hours. John.
I also liked Robert's other comment. I felt like we didn't even need a poet on yesterday because Robert said a good winery is always the best. The land itself comes into the experience, the taste and story.
That's true.
What a guy.
Especially Aslina wines, because that's such a personal name that you selected, your grandmother's name. You know, so you think of her every day. Oh, Robert Collins says custard and chips. Stop it, Bob Collins.
That's a bad plan. Listen, it's an important time of day. It's time for person of the day. You know, we had some thoughts on this one, and I think we have to go with Michelle. Michelle's been person of the day before, but you know, we have a family kind of crowd here, so you could be person of the day more than once. Pub-site.com sponsors person of the day, which means you get an apple just like that one. You just have to go to a store and buy it, and then you can eat it whenever you go.
Be sure to wash it first. From what Ntsiki tells me, you could ferment it into wine. I don't recommend trying it if you've never done it before.
They used to call that hard cider, but Ntsiki was telling us that evidently there's a lot of things trying to be wine that don't ever grow on a vine. So
yeah.
Like they'll call them wine, but it's made from oranges or something.
So we're at the part of the show where we ask about the backpack. We're here where we ask the question, what goes into your backpack? It could be something physical, it could be something metaphorical, it could be anything you want. It just has to fit in a backpack, maybe. And I have the question for both of you. So what, Ntsiki, goes into your backpack that will help us for the next 5 years?
It's the lessons of the do's and don'ts.
The lessons of the do's and don'ts.
Yes.
Your lessons, though, not lessons someone tells you.
No, my lessons and experience of the do's and don'ts.
Don't break wine glasses. That's what I learned.
Actually, yes. Like now, it hurts when somebody breaks my wine glasses.
Oh, so now you understand, right?
Now
so what I learned is not to make like prison brew out of oranges and whatever's lying around and call it wine. That's my big takeaway for today. Dave, what goes in the backpack?
Yeah, I totally over-prepared for this. I came up with a framework for you. Basically, in short, it's about openness. I think that openness is the most important thing for us when it comes to ideas, and particularly when it's coming to change. So look at this. Look at this. I created this here. I've got a mnemonic for you, and it's iPad is the mnemonic. And I think that there's 4 kinds of openness we need. So the first one is information. We need to be open to more information. We need to be looking at information that we wouldn't normally consume. I guess we'd call it curiosity. So we need to constantly be feeding our minds with new stuff and taking that information and working out, how does it apply to us? What can we learn from it? And then the P of iPad is perspectives. So open yourself to new perspectives. At the moment, we've got this incredible polarization, sort of politically and socially, where people can't think beyond who they are. But we need to be able to see things from other perspectives, because when we do that, we can solve problems from different angles. And then the A is new approaches. So when we're in business and the way we're doing stuff, we need to understand there's other ways of doing it. So what are these different approaches? Are the approaches that we have got right? Should we replace them? Which brings us to the D, which is destruction. I think you need to be open to fresh destruction, because some of the stuff you're doing just now might not be right. You might need to rethink this. And to be able to do something new, you have to let go of stuff that's old, that isn't working for you. So that's my mnemonic iPad for openness.
That's our very
I want
first
to put an
mnemonic.
open iPad.
I feel
in
like
my
you cheated. That's like more than one thing.
But it's just an iPad, you know? That's what who took an iPad the other day? Greg Harbut took an iPad. So there you go.
Oh,
Same thing.
Michelle is happy.
Oh, that's great. That's impressive, Dave. That's some preparation there. Wow.
Thank you.
Well, Ntsiki made us wine, so it's very similar.
Yes, except that 2 to 3 glasses
Takes
in, I'm going
longer.
to have some really good ideas.
Yeah.
That
Well-
that same idea of that people must drink wine when they want to be creative.
I
So
like that idea. I like that
I'm
idea.
going to do it. I'm going to give that a whirl.
My grandmother was more of a beer person than a wine person, but I could see wanting to give her some wine, seeing as we're talking about grandmothers.
Vodka?